What's up, everyone, and welcome to The Arena, a show about mortgage, real estate, and the boots on the ground making it happen every day. We are on location at a secret cigar lounge with Tom and Omar. They are part of the Omar Din team. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, not a problem. I thought this would be really cool to have you guys over. You guys are into a lot more than just real estate. We're going to get to that in the meantime, but you run a real estate team. Mm-hmm. Omar, this is your team.
Yes.
And you have a couple philosophies that I just thought were interesting. I work with a lot of real estate agents. I've seen a lot of teams, and I just feel like there are some teams that just get bigger and bigger and bigger. For you guys, it just seemed to be where you just had very selective quality over quantity type philosophy there. I just wanted to get right into it and talk about what really is your mission here. What have you built, and what do you have going on with the team?
So just a quick backstory into us, how we came to be. I've been licensed since 2016, and in my first couple months of being an active agent, I had some pretty substantial numbers, and I was just some new kid on the block, just working on a team with a bunch of other, agents just like myself. Fast forward about a year or two, I decided that it was better for me to go off on my own. I did the solo agent thing for about a year, and as I was getting busier, the phones were ringing faster than I could handle. I had reached out to Tom Cassidy here, and he was my first hire, and Tom's been with me ever since.
Your first victim.
First victim, yeah.
my first whipping boy. But yeah, so Tom was the first agent that I hired, and he's been with me through thick and thin. We've then since I'm up to 5 agents now that are on the team, excluding myself. And I haven't really been any big rush to become this big mega-sized team with, 20, 30, 40 agents. I don't strive to be the biggest, but what we do strive to be is the best. It certainly is a quality over quantity. When people tell you that size matters, in our case, it doesn't.
I love that. We're going to put that in a t-shirt. I
already got it.
I think what I thought was so interesting is you talked a lot about customer experience, client experience. I just feel like right now, with things being so stressful, with multiple bids, a lot of frustration out there, that when you're talking about process and you're talking about being efficient and being there and just the ultimate level of service to your clients, I just found that interesting. Again, why I want to have you guys on the show. Talk to me a little bit about if I'm a new client,
yes.
Whether I want to buy or sell, what is the process and how do you guys walk them through all of that?
I think the first step is painting a realistic expectation of the current market. Things are so different right now, post-COVID, than they were, beforehand. I mean, the world is different. So naturally, a lot of industries are going to change along with it. So the most important thing, and this is something that I learned, maybe as a teenager, and I couldn't even tell you what random job that this was that a client's perception is reality, number one. But number two, I learned somewhere along the way that when you give a plan to somebody, in this case I'm giving a plan to this potential client, buyer, seller, doesn't make a difference. If things go according to the plan, everything's okay. So if I tell people, look, we're going to have to offer over asking on this particular property because based on comparables, it's priced a little under where it should be. Mm-hmm. And if I also tell them that expect that there's going to be multiple offers on this property, and if there are, here's how we navigate. Well, number one, they're not going to say, oh, I don't want to get into a bidding war. Well, what's a bidding war? Like, no one's whipping out knives and guns. It's just, there's a product.
I don't know.
That depends.
I wouldn't put that past some people in this market.
But there's, you have a product, okay? It has an estimated value. There's a bunch of people that want it. Well, whoever wants it the most is going to get it. And there's going to be a point, okay? But, as a good agent and an experienced agent, the more times you're in this particular scenario, you're going to be more comfortable navigating those waters. So in communicating that we have this experience to any of these potential clients, the idea is that, okay, we know what we're doing here. We're not swimming in uncharted territory. So setting those expectations, letting them know what to expect and what's going to happen is critical to them not being blindsided through any point in the process.
Now, I did my research on these guys, and I called a bunch of agents, all the agents. No, I called
Every one of them.
everyone. The reputation that you guys have, and whether you know it or not, I'm sure you do, is that you're very strategic, clear communication, very concise with these offers. You have to understand that when you're talking about bidding wars, yeah, the one who wants it the most gets it, but also the one who presents it in the best and clearest light and the clearest way gets it too. So it's all about, if you're a seller and you want to sell your house and you have 10 offers, you want to just choose the one that has the least chance of blowing up, right?
Sure.
The most chance of going through as smooth as possible. So if these listing agents who have that listing and they're advising the seller, if they're saying, listen, I've worked with Omar, I've worked with Tom and their team, it's going to be a smooth ride. I think that is a very undervalued part of choosing an agent. Why not choose my cousin who just got their license? Why not choose my uncle that has his license to close one deal a year, my part-time? It's because, in all things being equal, they're going to choose the one that the listing agent and the seller are going to choose the one that they feel is going to be the least stress and least issues.
100%.
And I think something for that is when you think about it, like every real estate transaction is very similar to like a plane taking off, and you want to have the smoothest takeoff you can. So every objection you throw out there is just another obstacle. So being able to present that and then explain it to the clients as well, it's the difference between like customer satisfaction and customer experience. Like you can have satisfied means like I'm happy with how this turns out, which not everybody is now. Experience, you can't control with the outcome, you can control the experience.
So this is interesting, and you guys, I just thought it was just a great dynamic. You know, the fact that Tom, you have your strengths, Omar, you have yours. So technology, I think that's, you know, everyone talks about AI, everyone talks about just technology. Anytime you even mention stuff like that, a company's stock goes through the roof. So I think about you guys as you have your own stock, and what's going to make your stock go through the roof? The fact that you guys, you have this experience, you have this process, but then it seems like you also are leveraging technology. How is that helping your clients?
So from a client standpoint, we're just able to work a lot more efficiently. We've been able, with the adoption of newer software platforms, that we can automate a lot of things that we traditionally had to allocate hours out of the day or spend money hiring somebody to do these things that are all completely necessary to the transaction. I mean, every little mundane detail, from writing a contract, writing an offer, ordering a CO, sitting for an appointment, getting pictures taken, dropping signs off, courier work. Sure, I could do it myself and keep my overhead low, but then I'm going to run out of hours in the day.
Right.
And this is before I even think about my marketing time, when I'm getting on the phone, sending text messages, sending emails to people. So by automating as much of that as possible, that now frees us up to put our time, our focus, and our energy into the people. You have to enjoy being around people and working with people and helping take care of them if you're to be the slightest bit successful in this industry. And even then, it's still no guarantee. But the less I'm worried about kicking out emails or responding to email or responding to text messages or anything like that, then I can put more of my energy, time, and focus into serving the clients that have hired us.
And solving their problems.
And it feels
Exactly.
like we're constantly trying to strive to drive more value, because like anybody can become an agent now. Like, let's not lie. Like, it's not hard to become a real estate agent. You've worked with probably 1,000 agents over.
I have
your
no
career.
comment, Tom.
Yes. You've worked in this industry for how long?
Since 2016.
I've been in a little after that, but I haven't been full time. But it's not hard to become a real estate agent. You have to be basically breathing.
I mean, you used to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, right?
They hire, well,
And
they have
now
a great management program.
even you're
They
an
have a great
agent.
management program.
They're great people. I love everybody at Enterprise.
I used to work there too.
I still got the freight ties.
Pretty much all of my friends still either work
Yeah.
there or have worked there.
Yeah. But it's constantly trying to drive value. So, like, how do you drive value to somebody? And, like, it's going to be different for everybody, but there's a couple key components that everybody should keep in mind, and that's their perceived likelihood of achieving the goal that they have, and what is their dream outcome, and that's what every realtor goes for.
Right.
How do you do that better? And as you decrease the time it takes to get there, and you try to keep it as pain-free as possible. So part of the pain-free portion is definitely keeping the communication going, letting them know what's going on, and kind of what he was saying. When you have a plan, everybody, as long as it goes to plan, everybody's expecting that.
Well, and okay, so let's talk about when things don't go to plan, Tom. Let's talk about when you guys have to kick in and you have to solve some problems. Let's talk about the top mistakes that you're seeing being made these days and how you're solving them. So, go.
You want me to go first, or you want to go first? You want to take one?
I've got plenty of.
This will be a fun game.
Yeah,
This will be a fun game.
So the biggest one, everything always relates back to human nature. So many people don't realize how in control their primitive brain is, and I think of when I'm dealing with the general public, it could be other realtors, it could be clients, anybody. I always think of how can I use examples of how I either motivate my child or my dog to get something done. And honestly, I always think about this whenever
It's just food.
Food works a lot of times. When we're stressed, what do? We eat. All right. Makes you feel better. So
I drink. Not
So-
the healthiest.
So we're continuously, most people's reaction when a problem arises, number one, is to not take the blame. It's like, oh, he did it, it was her fault, it was your fault. Okay, regardless of whether or not that's true in any given situation, okay, what does that fix? All you're doing is gaslighting people. Now, you already had a fire that was this big. The second you start gaslighting people, now you've got this raging inferno. So me as the agent, okay, and it doesn't matter what side of the transaction I'm on, do I want to extinguish a fire that's this big or a raging inferno, okay? Even if we're completely right, pointing the finger of blame, all I'm doing is exacerbating the situation, and I'm just giving myself more work to ultimately have to clean up. Well, that's completely counterproductive to the situation at hand. I'm shooting myself in the foot doing this to people.
Also, you kind of point, whenever you point the victim blame,
Yeah.
you're like, hey, Matt's the reason why I'm not getting it done. I give Matt all the power in the world that changes my outcome. When I blame myself, like, even if it's not my fault, I'm like, okay, well, what can I do?
And
I
you're
give
retaining
myself
control.
I give myself all the control and all the power to change the outcome after that.
Yeah.
But until you stop pointing the finger, you can never take that control back because it's always going to be somebody else's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the second biggest mistake that you're seeing these days with your clients?
I think it's not so client-wise is like we have a saying. The saying is who you choose matters. And Omar's kind of instilled this in us, and we always kind of talk about it, and we have meetings every day, and we kind of just go back to this saying. But it's like who you choose does matter today. So you were saying before of how you can, you might have a cousin who's just gotten the real estate. You want to help him out. You want to give him a shot. If he hasn't been doing this for a while, you have to have an agent who is emotionally intelligent enough to talk to the other agents, not just throw a blind offer out there. Find out what their hot buttons are for the seller, because it might not just be price. It's always price, but it might not just be price.
Right.
So you have to have an agent that's willing to go above and beyond to really connect, and that goes outside because not every agent can do that. So you have to have a team and a group of people that are respected, liked, and trusted.
Yeah, and you need to be able to read the room. You need to know the audience. Like,
Well, you have to think on your feet.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when you're the one thing that I think so many buyers don't realize is they are really not a part of the negotiation at all. You might think you are, but in the end, the emails, the phone calls, the back and forth, that's agent to agent. At least down here. You go north of Burlington County, it's attorneys. But down here, it's really these agents. So again, you might think you have a game plan with the agent, you talked about it, you set expectations, all the right things, but now you have to trust that that agent is going to communicate it clearly and in the best light with that other agent. And if they've burned bridges, if they are, not emotionally intelligent and, pretty emotional where they're flipping out left and right, that listing agent might not want to negotiate with them, might think that this is going to be a problem. And you're not going to get that property, and worse yet, not even know why you didn't get the property.
right? And this brings back to a point that you touched on earlier, is there's countless. So as a team lead, I can say this with conviction, is some of the agents that are on my team that were not brand new agents, but were already established and tenured agents. One of the big things that I said to them is that when you send offers on my letterhead, there's going to be a higher chance of it getting accepted for the reason of the track record that I've created in doing the best that I can to, do a good job, not just to my clients, okay, because my first responsibility is to them, but satisfying that in addition to being a good agent to the agent on the other side of a transaction. And there's lots of like multiple offer situations that my clients won when we weren't the highest offer. But because that listing agent knows that Omar's going to get it done, or anybody on Omar Din's team is going to get it done. And does, a transaction go bad from time to time? Sure it does. But
They're not
again,
mostly mine.
Yeah. But the one thing I don't do if something goes sideways is this.
Point. Yeah, and just like, having your name and your team on a letterhead, I know that also having the right team around you and the buyer is important. So also having the right lender.
Sure.
And there's so many, right now, rate is a problem. Affordability is a problem. So we have a lot of buyers that I know you always push, and we're great partners in this. Hey, use Matt Boyce, use Maximus. They're going to be the local lender that's going to help you out. And we might do everything right, but in the end, they're going to still shop.
Yeah.
And let's say they go online and they find a no-name bank in the middle of the country or out west or whatever it is, and they're a little bit lower in the rate, and they try to use that pre-approval letter along. Are you finding that it's a problem, even if they have if your letter had your name behind it, but then it's an unknown lender? Is that becoming a problem these days?
To an educated listing agent, yes. When I'm reviewing, and this is one of the things in my preparation of any new clients, specifically speaking of my sellers, is we discuss different lenders, different loan officers, and the reason for it is track record. And I'm not going to get into naming names of companies or loan officers, but there are certain companies and organizations that have excellent track records, and like the percentages of negative occurrences are almost nil.
Yeah.
Then there's other ones that have high volume of problems, appraisal issues, underwriting missed things with the buyer.
Last minute issues, yep.
Right, things that
Delayed
should have been
settlements.
done before that pre-approval was even kicked out. So you do enough deals, you know who gets the job done and who doesn't, whether you're talking lenders, title, agents, all the above. And this circles back to our team's credo is who you choose matters.
Who you choose matters. I love it.
It all circles back to that.
So closing out the mistakes, if you will, because we're trying to be, proactive and letting people know what's up. Tom, what do you think? What's a final misstep that you think is happening now that people can avoid?
So I think like being a buyer right now is not fun.
No.
And I think looking at their experience going through it and trying to realize like there's a person like, a couple that just gets married and they're having a kid and now they're trying to find a house. It's supposed to be a fun time, and it's not the funnest time right now.
Well, it used to be.
It used to be.
Back in the day, it used to be, oh, I found a house. Let me bring my entire family back multiple times to look at that house. And we'll decide, do we want to buy it or not?
Dad will go through. He'll do the inspection
Yep.
underneath. He'll let you know, point out where everything's supposed to
Pull
go.
open the
and
cabinet under the sink.
Yeah, like he'll make sure everything's good. But like as far as looking at like values on houses,
Yeah.
you need an agent that knows values and knows neighborhoods. If you have like an expectation, you're like, I'm looking in XYZ neighborhood, and you don't find what you're looking for, you don't know the values of those, you can significantly overpay. You can be underwater shortly after, and like if you don't get that house, knowing that there's other houses out there, but setting the expectation for everybody going through. So again, the process. So I think valuations right now are more important than anything, because now we're starting to see certain appraisals that are coming in lighter than they used to.
Yep.
And you're starting to have these appraisals, and I'm sure you see it too. Some of these appraisal issues are starting to become bigger and bigger because people have, then they're guaranteeing appraisals, and they were expecting 10, now it's 25, 30, 35,000.
It's a really important point. I haven't really thought about it to even say on camera. Billy, make note that we're going to do a video later on about this.
Noted.
So the appraisal process, and it's a big part. If it doesn't appraisal gaps are a big part of negotiations now. So basically what that means is if you get a $500,000 purchase price and you say, look, I'll cover up to a $50,000 appraisal gap, that means it could appraise for $450,000 and we're good. But what if it appraises lower? Now kind of the deal's up in the air. A lot of people don't realize the appraisal is just the opinion of the appraiser. So what I do, and I mean, been doing this long enough where I know the appraisers that, are good at what they do. And they're going to come and they know the area, they know these neighborhoods. So I actually have a panel of appraisers. Now I can't say this specific appraiser is going to do this specific house, but I know at least whoever gets chosen is going to be someone of quality. Where you don't know if it's an outside lender, a big bank, they don't care who they throw it. It could be a North Jersey appraiser doing a South Jersey, never been in the neighborhood before, but they just randomly got chosen. Yep. Again, who you choose matters.
Yes.
It always goes back to that. And who you have to choose. And when you're going through this process, work with experts, work with people who have the networking and have the experience of a good network of people that you can pull from.
Yeah. So I want to talk about investments.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that a lot of talk these days, and I know that I do, and you guys do, all have to do about first-time home buyers and
sure.
People buying their primary residence. I think that there's very few agents out there that really understand the investment side of things. Another reason I want to have you on here today, Omar, is it seems like that's your world.
Yes.
So talk with me a little bit about, if I'm an investor, what can you do for me, and what's your process finding them a good opportunity?
So the first thing is finding out what is the purpose of their investing. Are they looking for buy and hold? Are they looking for long-term appreciation? Or are they looking for properties to flip? So once we get through the basics of what it is that they're looking for, I go through what are things that they want to avoid. Like there's some people that just won't touch a house that has a septic, or geographically there's certain distances that they can't go because it's just too long of a drive for their crews. So their profit margins get smaller because the drive time is higher, gas expenses and everything. Understanding what that particular investor's rehab costs are. Like typically, with any investor that I work with, usually more speaking of flips, I want to find out on average what's their dollar per square foot cost on a rehab.
Sure.
Do they need deals with more meat on the bones, or can they take ones that are a little higher risk, but they just always seem to be able to get those skinny deals done? So knowing how to match the right project to the right investor. I will tell an investor not to buy a property faster than I will tell them to buy a property, because at the end of the day, I don't care about making one commission and bankrupting somebody. Everybody loses from that. Like, sure, yeah, I made a commission off the blood of somebody else, but who does that really benefit? It's going to tarnish my reputation. That's going to bury them. They're going to tell everybody, oh, don't use Omar. He doesn't, understand numbers. I'm so numbers obsessed when it comes to scouting properties for my investors. And it doesn't matter if the property comes through the MLS, if it's an REO, if it's an off-market transaction, if it's a wholesale deal. Numbers are numbers. The ARV is going to be the ARV, and understanding trends in neighborhoods. Like, are the ARVs trending upward? Are they trending downward? Are they staying stagnant? Having a team, I know what the demand is because everyone on my team, myself included, we have buyers. So we know what people want. A lot of agents, when they get to my point in their career, they'll establish themselves as a seller's agent or a listing agent. I will never pigeonhole myself like that, because the best way for me to coach a seller through a transaction is for me to understand buyers. How do I know how to present a property if I lose touch with buyers?
Yeah.
I think personally, it's just my opinion, is that that's a foolish thing for anyone to ever brand themselves as, I do listings only. Do I do more listings than buyers? I do, but I'm probably at a 2-to-1 ratio.
Sure.
I still do open houses myself almost every weekend. I love tag teaming with people on the team on them, just to see what do people even like these days. And I never want to lose touch with that.
It's fun to get out there too. You get to meet people. You get to meet people. You get to see them. You actually get to feel a pulse of what they're going through, because a lot of these people going to open houses, it's not their first open house.
Right.
They've been through 15 to 20 in a weekend, and they're struggling. So you can feel their pain, and you can keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the people who pigeonhole themselves, they lose touch, and it's like as you go up management, you lose touch with the people who are actually on the ground.
Well, that's what I'm gathering, guys. I mean, you really take care of all your clients. You believe in quality over quantity. You really take a custom approach to everybody that comes to you, whether they're an investor, whether they're a seller, they're a buyer, it doesn't matter. You want to really make sure that you're catering to them.
Mm-hmm.
So as a last segment here, I always want to ask. This is more for me, but I'm sure everyone's going to be very interested. You guys, again, are the boots on the ground. That's why I want to have you. I don't trust things I read in the news. I don't trust people writing articles about real estate. Who the hell are they? And a lot of times they're looking at national trends. I don't care about what's going on in California. I care about what's going on right here. So get your crystal balls out.
Mm-hmm.
What's some predictions? Tom, take me over the next year, maybe a little bit beyond. What are you saying here?
So I see more of the same. I kind of see more of the same. I see the rates kind of sticking right where they're at right now. Mm-hmm. They might take a little dip down. Home values, for me, I think are probably going to wind up being about the same throughout the year. Like they're going to rise a little bit, but I do think that they're not going to dip. They're not going to drop off. You're not going to lose yourself.
Which is what everyone's worried about.
Yeah, and ultimately you should be.
Yeah.
Like when you make the biggest decision of your life, you don't want to buy something that tomorrow is worth half.
Or a bidding war where you're going head to head and you're paying over what they asked for, and you're going, oh my God, am I going to lose my shirt here?
But for the last 3 years, we've been waiting for people to say like, oh yeah, it's coming down, and it might not be that. Like I don't see any like black swan event happening that's going to change it in the next year and a half. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
what do you think, Omar?
So my 2 cents on this is that number one, nothing's permanent.
Yep.
But a big difference, and people always ask, "Oh, is this going to be like the crash in the mid 2000s?" There's a couple very distinct differences that people forget when they're just throwing these like theories out there. Is that the crash in the mid 2000s? Number one, there was just no underwriting being done on mortgages. So anybody,
I can attest to that.
Anybody with
I was part of the problem.
I make $1 million a year.
It's your fault.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
That was one component.
Yeah.
Versus today, it's harder than ever to get a mortgage. The underwriting is so rigid. It's not impossible, but you have to meet actual qualifications.
You got to actually be able to afford the place.
Buyers are actually more qualified than ever.
Yes.
I can't even say it's an opinion. That's a notice of then versus today, number one. Number two, that inflation was based off of hype. There was nothing driving it other than sensationalism. That's it. It was basically like, what like various markets refer to as like a pump and dump. Now there's a supply and demand offset.
Yes.
Just there are so many less homes for sale, and there's more first-time home buyers than there are in comparison to the number of houses listed. That isn't going to shift overnight. Every house that has 30 people that lost on a multiple offer situation, they still need houses. So there isn't going to be any unforeseen like bottom dropping out. It's not possible. So I think eventually things will taper off and things will eventually rebalance, but it can't happen overnight because where are thousands of homes just going to magically appear from to satisfy all these buyers that are without a property?
It's not going to happen.
No, it's physically impossible.
I've been saying the same thing. It's supply and demand.
Yes.
In the end, a buyer's market is anything over 6 months inventory.
Right.
A seller's market is pretty much anything less than 6 months inventory.
Right.
Right now, we're still hovering around 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
If that.
So you could say all day long, how could this continue and how could you? And I totally get it. I get people thinking that. But in the end, people still need to buy.
Yes.
People are moving out of the country, or out of the country. Yeah, probably at this point. They're moving out of New Jersey or out of Pennsylvania. People are divorcing. People are passing away. People are downsizing. People always will need to move.
Yes.
So in the end, there's still a lot of buying going on.
Right.
And people that are just like, well, I just want to upgrade. I don't really like my neighborhood. I want this market's crazy. It can never last. But that's not true because there's so many other people that really do need to buy, and there's so many other people that don't need to sell.
Right.
So their rates low. They're doing just fine. So the market, I think, the inventory is going to be low for quite a while.
Yes, and that is what's going to prevent any imminent shift that nobody saw coming. There's too many things that need to happen in order for the market to shift, even to just like a neutral market. I mean, we've got a long road ahead of us.
So I think in the end, to sum it up, people are protected. If you want to buy one, you got to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's why I love about you guys. You guys aren't just churn and burn, get them through. Hey, whatever. Here's some searches. Here's some houses. Buy. Don't buy. I don't care. You guys really take a personalized approach and make sure that you have a game plan together for each specific buyer, seller, investor.
Mm-hmm.
2, you're going to advise them properly. You don't want them to overpay. But then again, if they really love the house and it's their life, if they want their kids to grow up in that neighborhood, if they want, if they know that this is going to be their home for a long, long time, you could tell them, look, you're not going to make money on it. It's not an investment, but you're not going to lose money. So you're going to be able to advise them properly. And then 3, you have an amazing process. You're utilizing technology, and you're just making sure that it's efficient all the way around, and people are always communicated with, and they know what's going on. Love it. Guys, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Really appreciate it. We can finish our drinks
Cheers.
off
Thank
camera.
You. Yeah. There we go. Thank you. Cheers.
Love it. Thanks, guys. See ya.